Ji-woo stood at attention in the massive hall of Harmony's Edge, the largest space station she had ever seen. The ceiling stretched so high above her that she couldn't see where it ended. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of species filled the ceremonial chamber. Their strange bodies and stranger faces all turned toward the human delegation. She felt the weight of her grandfather's compound bow pressing against her back. Secured in its custom holster. Ambassador Tae-yang stood beside her, his formal suit crisp and perfect. On her other side was Hyun-woo, the team's technology specialist, who kept fidgeting with his tablet. The three of them represented Earth's first permanent security and diplomatic presence at the Galactic Council. It was supposed to be an honor. So far, it felt like being examined under a microscope. "The humans carry kinetic weapons," a voice said from somewhere in the crowd. Ji-woo's translator implant converted the alien language instantly. "How quaint." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Ji-woo kept her face neutral, but her jaw tightened. She had expected this. The briefing back on Earth had warned them. To the galaxy, humanity was backward, young, primitive. A tall crystalline being approached their group. His body was made of some kind of translucent material that caught the light and threw rainbows across the floor. This was Commander Valthus, the station's chief of security. Ji-woo had studied his file during the 6-month journey here. "Ambassador Tae-yang," Valthus said, his voice musical and strange. "Welcome to Harmony's Edge. Your people are the youngest species to ever receive an invitation to the council." "We're honored," Tae-yang replied smoothly. He had practiced this speech 1,000 times on the ship. Valthus turned his faceted eyes toward Ji-woo. She couldn't read his expression, but something in his posture seemed amused. "Your security officer carries an interesting weapon. May I see it?" Ji-woo glanced at Tae-yang, who nodded slightly. She unslung the bow from her back and held it out for inspection, though she didn't hand it over. The compound bow was a work of art, carbon fiber, and smart materials, with cams and pulleys that gave her incredible draw weight. Her grandfather had made it himself before he died. She had been shooting since she was 6 years old. "A projectile weapon," Valthus said, "using muscle power to propel a sharpened stick." He didn't laugh, but others around them did. "Fascinating. We haven't used such weapons in over 10,000 years. The energy required to draw that string when a plasma rifle could." "It's effective," Ji-woo interrupted. She knew she shouldn't, but the condescension in his voice made her angry. "And it never runs out of power cells. Effective against what?" A new voice joined the conversation. An insectoid creature pushed through the crowd, its body armored with thick green plates. Multiple eyes fixed on Ji-woo. "Against small animals on your primitive world, perhaps. But here, we face real threats. Pirates with energy shields. Raiders with armor plating. Your little bow would be useless." Hyun-woo stepped closer to Ji-woo, a subtle show of support. She appreciated it, even though she didn't need protecting. "Officer Ji-woo is one of our finest soldiers," Tae-yang said, his voice diplomatic but firm. "She has trained for 15 years in both traditional and modern combat." "Traditional," the insect creature repeated, clicking its mandibles. "Yes, that's the word. Traditional. Humans are so attached to their traditions that they bring ancient weapons to a modern galaxy." The crowd murmured agreement. Ji-woo felt heat rising in her cheeks. She wanted to challenge them, to show them what she could do with her bow. But that wasn't why they were here. They were here to make friends, to establish trust, to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. So she swallowed her pride and nodded. "Perhaps we have much to learn," she said quietly. The ceremony continued. More speeches, more introductions, more barely concealed mockery. Ji-woo learned the names of species she had only read about in files. The Valkyrie, the crystalline beings who controlled most of the Council's security forces. The Thaxrim, the aggressive insectoids who dominated military operations. The Qualthan, amphibious creatures who seemed friendlier than the others, but still looked at humans with something like pity. When it finally ended, Jiwoo and Hyanwoo were shown to their quarters in the security wing. The rooms were nice, designed to accommodate human needs, but they felt sterile. Jiwoo immediately hung her bow on the wall and collapsed onto the bed. "That went well," Hyanwoo said sarcastically, leaning against the doorframe. "They think we're children," Jiwoo replied, staring at the ceiling. "Children playing with toys. Maybe we are, compared to them. Did you see their weapons in the armory? Plasma rifles that can cut through hull plating. Particle beams that disintegrate matter. Disruptor cannons that can level buildings. And we have bows." "I know what we have," Jiwoo said sharply. Then she sighed. "Sorry, I'm just frustrated." Hyungwoo came in and sat in the chair by her desk. "Me too, but think about it from their perspective. They've been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Some of these species have technology that seems like magic to us. And then we show up with kinetic weapons and chemical rockets and ask to be taken seriously." "We didn't ask for anything," Jiwoo said. "They invited us. True. I wonder why." That was the question that had bothered Jiwoo since the beginning. Earth had only achieved faster than light travel 20 years ago. They were nobodies in galactic terms. So why had the Council reached out? Why invite such a young, primitive species? Over the next 3 weeks, Jiwoo settled into a routine. She trained in the station's gymnasium, though the equipment was designed for aliens and didn't quite fit her body. She practiced with her bow in the shooting ranges, where other security officers would stop and watch her like she was performing a historical reenactment. She studied Council security protocols and tried to ignore the whispers that followed her everywhere. Valthus assigned her to patrol duty, but it was clearly busy work. The station had automated systems that detected threats better than any living being could. Her presence was ceremonial, a human in uniform walking the halls to show that Earth was participating. One evening, she found Taeyang in the diplomatic offices, staring at a holographic display. He looked tired. The negotiations weren't going well. The Council kept offering Earth marginal trade agreements and limited technology sharing. Nothing that would really help humanity advance. "They're testing us," Taeyang said when he noticed her. "Seeing what we're worth. And what are we worth?" Jiwoo asked. "I don't know yet. But there's something they're not telling us. I can feel it. They didn't invite us here out of charity or curiosity. They need something. I just can't figure out what." The answer came 2 days later in a classified briefing that changed everything. Jiwoo, Taeyang, and Hyanwoo were summoned to a secure conference room deep in the station's core. Valthus was there, along with several high-ranking council members. The friendly atmosphere from the ceremony was gone. These aliens looked worried. "We need to discuss the real reason you're here," Valthus said, his crystalline body dimming. "The reason we invited humanity to join the Council decades before you would normally qualify." A hologram appeared in the center of the table. It showed something that made Jiwoo's skin crawl. A creature, tall and wrong, its body seeming to flicker in and out of existence. Multiple limbs, too many eyes, movements that didn't make sense in three-dimensional space. "This," Valthus continued, "is a Rift Hunter. And they're coming back." The hologram rotated slowly, showing the creature from every angle. Jiwoo forced herself to keep looking, even though something deep in her brain screamed at her to look away. The Rift Hunter's body was wrong in ways she couldn't quite explain. It was there, but also not there. Solid, but also transparent. Like it existed in multiple places at once. 10,000 years ago, Valthus began. The Rift Hunters nearly destroyed galactic civilization. They came from somewhere else, somewhere between dimensions. We call it subspace, though that's not quite accurate. They could move through our reality like ghosts, striking without warning, killing without mercy. An elderly alien Ji Woo didn't recognize spoke next. His body was covered in scales, and he moved slowly, as if every gesture caused pain. "I am Elder Krathen," he said. "I am a historian. My species maintains the ancient records." The Rift Hunters were apex predators. They hunted intelligent species for food and for sport. Thousands of worlds fell before we found a way to fight them. "What stopped them?" Tay asked. "The Great Purge," Krathen replied. "Every species in the galaxy united. We built weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. We pushed the Rift Hunters back into the dimensional rifts they came from and sealed those rifts. We thought we had won. We thought they were gone forever. But they're not," Ji Woo said quietly. "No," Valthus confirmed. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual readings. Dimensional tiers forming at the edges of known space. Small at first, then growing. We sent ships to investigate. Those ships didn't come back. 2 weeks ago, we finally got visual confirmation from an automated probe before it was destroyed. The hologram changed, showing grainy footage of a Rift Hunter tearing through the hull of a spaceship. The creature moved through solid metal like it wasn't there, then became solid again to strike at the crew inside. Their screams were silent in the vacuum, but Ji Woo could see their terror. "That's why you invited us," Taeyang said, his voice steady despite what they were watching. "You need help fighting them. We need to understand why our modern weapons don't work," a Thaxor military officer said. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "We've run simulations. Plasma weapons pass right through them when they phase. Particle beams have minimal effect. Energy shields can't stop them because they simply exist in a different dimensional space." Haiyan Wu leaned forward, his scientific mind already working on the problem. "They phase through energy but not matter." "Not exactly," Krathen said. "They can phase through matter too, when they choose. But there's a difference. Energy-based attacks, they can avoid almost completely. Physical objects require more effort from them. In the ancient wars, our ancestors used kinetic weapons, projectiles, explosives, things that existed in normal space and carried physical force." Ji Woo felt everyone's eyes turn to her, specifically to the bow on her back. "You want us to fight them with primitive weapons," she said. "We want you to help us remember how," Valthus corrected. "All the species in this room evolved past kinetic weapons millennia ago. We have no soldiers trained in their use. No tactics designed around them. No manufacturing infrastructure to produce them in the quantities we'd need. But you, we're still primitive enough to be useful," Ji Woo finished. "You're specialized enough to be valuable," Taeyang corrected, giving her a warning look. "Earth's military still uses ballistic weapons alongside energy weapons. Our hunters still practice with bows and rifles. We maintain that knowledge." "There's more," Krathen said. "The ancient records speak of something else. Something about the species that were most successful against the Rift Hunters. They were predator species. Not herbivores who had evolved intelligence. Not species that had developed peacefully, but creatures who had hunted and killed to survive. Species with instincts for tracking, for stalking, for understanding how prey moves and thinks. Most species in the Council evolved from prey animals," Valthus added. "Herd creatures, colony insects, social omnivores. Humans are different. Your evolution was driven by predation. You were hunters." Ji Woo thought about Earth's history, about early humans running down prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, about tribes coordinating to trap mammoths. about the way even modern humans could read body language, predict movement, understand fear. She had always been good at archery, but her instructors told her she had something extra. An instinct that let her know where her target would be, not where it was. "So we're your weapon," she said. "You're our hope," Kratham replied. "But we need to test the theory. We need to know if kinetic weapons can truly harm them. And we need to know if human instincts can track them." The meeting continued for hours. They discussed logistics, strategies, theoretical combat scenarios. Ji Woo learned that the council had been preparing for weeks, building up defenses at border stations, evacuating non-essential personnel from the outer sectors. They expected the first real attack soon. "We've set up a training simulation," Valthus said as the meeting ended. "Tomorrow, you'll face a holographic Rift Hunter. It's programmed based on ancient battle records. It won't be perfect, but it's the best we have." That night, Ji Woo couldn't sleep. She lay in her quarters, thinking about what they'd learned. The galaxy saw humans as primitive, but now that primitiveness might save them. It felt ironic. It felt wrong. It felt like a trapped Hyun Woo came by around midnight, unable to sleep either. "Are you scared?" he asked. "Yes," Ji Woo admitted. "But not of the Rift Hunters. I'm scared of what happens if we fail. They'll send us home, and Earth will never get another chance at the stars. We'll be the species that was too primitive to help when it mattered. And if we succeed, then we become the guard dogs. The attack animals they let off the leash when something needs killing." "Maybe that's not so bad," Hyun Woo said. "Every species has a role. Maybe this is ours." The next morning, Ji Woo entered the training facility with her bow and a quiver of 30 arrows. Valthus was there, along with several alien observers and a human scientist named Soo-Jin, who had arrived on the station a week earlier. Soo-Jin specialized in xenobiology and had been studying the ancient records of Rift Hunter physiology. "The simulation will begin when you're ready," Soo-Jin said. She looked excited, like a researcher about to test a promising hypothesis. "We've recreated the environment of a space station under attack. The Rift Hunter will behave according to its programming. Try to neutralize it." Ji Woo stepped into the simulation chamber. The walls disappeared, replaced by a holographic corridor that looked exactly like the ones outside. Emergency lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, she heard an alarm. She knocked an arrow and waited. The first thing she noticed was the silence. In every combat drill she'd ever done, there was noise. Gunfire, shouting, explosions. But the Rift Hunter made almost no sound. Just a faint whisper, like wind through grass. As it phased into existence 50 meters down the corridor, it was exactly like the hologram from the briefing. But seeing it in person, even as a simulation, was different. Her hindbrain screamed danger. Every instinct told her to run. The creature's body flickered, there and not there, and its too many eyes fixed on her. And a charged Ji Woo's training took over. She raised her bow, drew, aimed, and released in one smooth motion. The arrow flew true, but passed right through the creature's chest. It had phased. The arrow hit the wall behind it and clattered to the floor. The Rift Hunter kept coming. She dove to the side as it struck where she'd been standing. Its claws raked the floor, leaving deep gouges in metal that should have been indestructible. It was solid now, she realized. When it attacked, it had to become solid. Ji Woo rolled to her feet, already drawing another arrow. She waited, watching the creature turn toward her. It flickered again, phasing, and started to charge. She tracked its movement, her mind calculating speed and trajectory the way her grandfather had taught her. Not where it was, where it would be. She held her shot until the last possible moment, until the creature had to solidify to strike. Then she released. The arrow punched into the Rift Hunter's shoulder. It screamed, a sound that hurt Ji-Woo's ears and made her teeth ache. The creature stumbled, looking down at the arrow embedded in its flesh with what might have been surprise. The simulation ended. The creature vanished. The corridor disappeared. Ji-Woo stood alone in the empty chamber, breathing hard, her bow still raised. Outside, through the observation window, she could see the aliens staring at her. Valthus' crystalline body was pulsing with colors she'd never seen before. Su-Jin was making rapid notes on her tablet, talking excitedly to another researcher. Hyeon-woo was smiling. They had their answer. Humans could hurt the Rift Hunters. Now they just had to figure out if they could kill them. The message came at 0300 station time. Ji-Woo was awake instantly, years of military training overriding her exhausted body's need for sleep. Her communicator was flashing red, the emergency color that meant something had gone very wrong. All human personnel report to the command center immediately. Valthus' voice crackled through the speaker. We have a situation. Ji-Woo pulled on her combat uniform and grabbed her bow. In the corridor outside, she found Hyeon-woo doing the same, his face pale in the emergency lighting that had activated throughout the station. Is it them? He asked. Who else would it be? They ran through the corridors to the command center, where Taeyang and Su-Jin were already waiting. The massive display screens on the wall showed a mining facility called Outpost Meridian, located 2 days' travel from Harmony's Edge, or at least, they showed what was left of it. They hit the station 40 minutes ago, Valthos said without preamble. Standard defenses failed completely. Plasma turrets, particle cannons, everything. The weapons pass through the Rift Hunters like they're not even there. Casualty reports are. He paused, his crystalline body dimming. 73 confirmed dead. Maybe twice that many missing. The survivors have sealed themselves in the core sections, but the hunters are breaking through. How many hunters? Ji-Woo asked. At least 6. Maybe more. They phase in and out, making accurate counts difficult. Tae-Yang stepped forward. You need us to go there. We're scrambling a response team, Valthus said. But yes, we need human soldiers. We need your kinetic weapons. The simulation proved they work, but a simulation isn't reality. We need to know if you can actually fight these creatures in the field. We can, Ji-Woo said with more confidence than she felt. I'm going too, Hyeon-woo added. Valthus looked at him. You're a technology specialist, not a soldier. I'm a human, Hyeon-woo replied. And I know how to shoot? Every human does. It's part of our basic training. Within 20 minutes, they were on a fast attack shuttle racing toward Outpost Meridian. Ji-Woo, Hyeon-woo, and 4 alien soldiers who looked like they expected to die. The aliens carried energy weapons because it was all they knew, even though they'd been briefed on how useless those weapons were. Old habits were hard to break. Su-Jin had loaded tactical information onto their combat tablets. Rift Hunters hunted by sensing electromagnetic fields and energy signatures. Modern technology was like a beacon to them. Powered armor, active scanners, communication devices, everything emitted signals that drew the creatures like moths to flame. So we go in quiet, Ji-Woo said, studying the station layout. Minimal tech. Hand signals instead of comms. We move like we're hunting deer, not clearing a building. The alien soldiers looked confused. Valthus, who had insisted on joining the mission personally, tilted his head. Deer? Animals we used to hunt for food, Ji-Woo explained. Before we had grocery stores. You move slowly. You stay downwind. You watch and listen and wait for the right moment. Patience is more important than speed. We don't have time for patience, a Thaxram soldier said. His name was Krextall, and his mandibles kept clicking nervously. People are dying. More people will die if we rush in and get killed in the first 5 minutes. Ji-woo said firmly. "We do this my way or not at all." Valthus surprised her by nodding. "She's right. This is a hunt, not a battle. We defer to human expertise." The shuttle docked at Outpost Meridian's emergency port. The station's main docking bay had been compromised, open to space, bodies floating in the vacuum. Ji-woo tried not to look at them as they entered through the airlock. Inside, the station was a nightmare. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Alarms blared until Ji-woo found a control panel and shut them off. The silence that followed was somehow worse. Scratch marks covered the walls, deep gouges in metal that should have been impenetrable. Bloodstains marked where people had died. "Power down everything," Ji-woo ordered quietly. "Weapons on standby, not active." "Comes off. We use hand signals from here on." The aliens looked uncomfortable, but complied. Ji-woo took point, her bow ready with an arrow nocked but not drawn. Hyeon-woo fell in behind her, carrying a rifle loaded with armor-piercing rounds. The aliens spread out in a defensive formation they'd learned from human military doctrine. They moved through the station slowly, clearing each corridor before advancing. Ji-woo found herself falling into a rhythm she'd learned hunting in the mountains back home. Watch the floor for tracks in this case, the scratch marks the hunters left when solid. Listen for any sound breathing, movement, the whisper of dimensional phasing. Feel the air for changes in pressure that might indicate something moving nearby. It was Hyeon-woo who spotted the first one. He touched Ji-woo's shoulder and pointed down a side corridor. She looked and saw it, a shimmer in the air like heat waves on a summer road. The Rift Hunter was phased, nearly invisible, stalking through the station. Ji-woo held up her hand, signaling the team to stop and wait. The creature moved past them, its multiple eyes scanning for prey. But with their technology powered down, they were nearly invisible to it. The hunter couldn't sense them the way it sensed its usual victims. When it was 20 meters away, Ji-woo made a decision. She signaled to Hyeon-woo, "You take the shot." Hyeon-woo's eyes widened, but he nodded. He raised his rifle slowly, taking careful aim. Ji-woo watched the hunter, waiting for the moment it would solidify. These creatures had to become solid periodically. She'd learned from Soo-jin's briefing. Staying phased required energy. They couldn't maintain it forever. The hunter paused. Its body flickered. For just a moment, it became fully solid. Hyeon-woo fired. The crack of the rifle was deafening in the enclosed corridor. The bullet hit the Rift Hunter in what might have been its chest. The creature screamed, that same teeth-aching sound from the simulation, and whirled toward them. "Spread out," Ji-woo shouted, abandoning silence now that the fight had started. The team scattered as the hunter charged. It was moving faster than in the simulation, rage or pain driving it forward. Ji-woo drew her bow and released in one smooth motion. The arrow caught the creature in the shoulder, spinning it sideways. Hyeon-woo fired again. Another hit. The Rift Hunter's body was becoming more solid now, as if maintaining its phase was too difficult while injured. Two of the alien soldiers opened fire with their energy weapons. The plasma bolts passed through empty air. The hunter had phased again, instinctively avoiding the energy. But when it solidified to strike at them, Ji-woo was ready. Her third arrow took it in the throat. The Rift Hunter collapsed, its body spasming. Then it began to dissolve, breaking apart into something that looked like black smoke before vanishing completely. The only evidence it had existed was the blood staining the floor and the arrows lying where they'd fallen. "It's dead," Velva said, his voice filled with something that might have been awe. "You killed it." "One down," Ji-woo said, already moving forward. 5 more to go, maybe. They found survivors in the next section. 20 station workers barricaded in a storage room. The people were terrified, some injured, all traumatized. Ji-woo left 2 alien soldiers to guard them while the rest of the team pushed deeper into the station. The second hunter found them in the cargo bay. This one was smarter or more cautious. It didn't charge. Instead, it phased in and out, striking from different angles, testing their defenses. Ji-woo found herself falling into a state of mind she'd experienced before, but only rarely. Time seemed to slow down. Her senses sharpened. She could hear the faint whisper of the hunter phasing, could feel the air pressure change when it moved. Her body moved before her conscious mind made decisions, drawing and releasing arrows with mechanical precision. Hyun-woo was experiencing it too, she realized. He was firing his rifle not where the hunter was, but where it would be, predicting movement through pattern recognition, reading the creature's body language the way a wolf reads a deer. The alien soldiers couldn't do it. They were firing at where they saw the hunter, always one step behind. But Ji-woo and Hyun-woo were hunting. Actually hunting. And slowly, methodically, they cornered the creature. When Ji-woo's arrow finally found its heart, she felt something she'd never felt before in combat. Satisfaction. Not joy at killing, but the deep, primal satisfaction of a successful hunt. It was disturbing and natural at the same time. "How did you do that?" Krextel asked, staring at her. "You moved like you knew what it would do before it did it." Ji-woo didn't have an answer. She just knew. The same way she knew when a deer would bolt, when a target would move. Instinct. Pattern recognition. A skill that humans had been refining for hundreds of thousands of years. They found the remaining hunters over the next 3 hours. Each fight was different. Each required patience, observation, and that strange state of focused awareness that let Ji-woo and Hyun-woo predict the creature's movements. The alien soldiers helped, learning quickly, adapting their tactics. But it was the humans who led the hunt. By the time they cleared the station, Ji-woo had only 5 arrows left, and Hyun-woo was down to his last magazine. They were exhausted, covered in sweat and blood that wasn't their own. But they were alive. An outpost meridian was secure. Valthus found them in the cargo bay, sitting against a wall and drinking. News of Outpost Meridian spread through the galaxy faster than light. Within a week, Ji-woo and Hyun-woo were famous. Or infamous, depending on who you asked. Video footage from the station's security cameras had been analyzed frame by frame. Scientists across dozens of species studied how the humans moved, how they anticipated the Rift Hunters' actions, how they killed creatures that Galactic civilization had considered nearly invincible. More humans arrived at Harmony's edge. Soldiers, hunters, even civilian volunteers who wanted to help. They brought weapons that made the aliens stare in disbelief. Compound bows like Ji-woo's, crossbows that could punch through armor plating, rifles that used chemical explosives to launch metal projectiles at supersonic speeds, even primitive weapons like spears and knives, because sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Earth's governments had mobilized completely. This was humanity's chance to prove their worth to the galaxy, and they weren't going to waste it. Within 2 weeks, there were 50 humans on Harmony's edge. Within a month, there were 300, spread across a dozen stations and ships. But something strange was happening. Something that worried Soo-jin and fascinated her at the same time. "We're calling it the trance," she explained to Ji-woo during a routine medical examination. "At least, that's the informal name. Formally, it's hyper-focused predatory state response. But nobody wants to say that 10 times a day." Ji-woo sat on the examination table while Soo-jin ran scanners over her head, monitoring brain activity. They've been doing these tests every day since Outpost Meridian, trying to understand what had happened during the fight. "Your brain waves change when you're hunting," Soo-jin continued. "Your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles conscious decision-making, becomes less active. Meanwhile, your visual cortex, auditory processing centers, and motor control regions light up like fireworks. You're processing sensory information and reacting to it faster than conscious thought. That doesn't sound good, Jiwoo said. It's not good or bad. It's just different. It's similar to what elite athletes experience during peak performance. Flow state, some people call it. But this is more intense. And it seems to be specifically triggered by hunting rift hunters. Hyun-woo was there too, waiting for his turn with the scanners. It feels natural, he said. Like something I've always known how to do but never had a reason to use. Is that normal? Normal for a predator species, yes, Sujin said. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. You tracked prey over long distances, reading signs, predicting behavior, working in coordinated groups. Those instincts are still in your DNA. Most humans never trigger them, because modern life doesn't require hunting for survival. But put you in a situation where those skills are necessary, and your brain remembers. Ji-woo thought about her grandfather teaching her to shoot. How he'd always told her to trust her instincts, to stop thinking and just feel where the arrow needed to go. She'd thought it was just advice. Now she wondered if he'd experienced something similar during his own life. The attacks continued. Rift hunters appeared at mining stations, research outposts, even cargo ships. Each time, human teams responded. And each time, the humans seemed to get better at it. Not through practice or training, but through instinct. They were learning to hunt, but there were incidents. A soldier named Jin-ho nearly killed his own teammate during a hunt. He'd entered the trance and became so focused on tracking a rift hunter that when his partner moved suddenly, Jin-ho spun and aimed his rifle before recognizing who it was. He didn't fire, but it had been close. A woman named Biora reported that during a hunt, she'd lost time. One moment she was tracking a hunter through a station corridor. The next, she was standing over its dissolving corpse with no memory of the actual fight. Her bow had been empty, arrows scattered around the body, blood on her hands. It's getting stronger, Sujin said, during a meeting with the human leadership. Tae-yang was there, along with Velthus and several council representatives. The more humans hunt, the deeper they go into the trance. It's like a muscle that gets stronger with use. But unlike a muscle, we don't fully understand what we're exercising. Are we becoming dangerous? Tae-yang asked. You're becoming effective, Velthus said. Casualty rates have dropped by 70% since human teams started responding to attacks. You're saving lives. That's not what he asked, Jiwoo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. He asked if we're becoming dangerous. And the answer is yes. To the rift hunters, definitely. But maybe to ourselves too. She described what she'd felt during her last hunt, 3 days ago. She'd tracked a rift hunter through an abandoned research station, and somewhere during the pursuit something had shifted. The world had become sharper, clearer. She could smell the creature, could hear its breathing even through solid walls. And when she'd finally cornered it, she'd felt something she'd never experienced before. Joy. Pure, primal joy at the hunt. At the kill dot, it had terrified her. I didn't want to stop, she admitted. Even after it was dead, I wanted to keep hunting. I had to force myself to stand down, to remember where I was and why I was there. It felt like fighting against my own nature. Hyun-woo nodded. I felt it too. Like there's something inside me that's been sleeping my whole life, and now it's waking up. And it's hungry. Sujin pulled up brain scans on the display. This is Ji-woo's brain during normal activity. This is her brain during the trance. See the difference? Regions that evolve for hunting and tracking are hyperactive. But also, look here, the amygdala, which processes fear and aggression, is showing unusual patterns. You're not just hunting more effectively. You're enjoying it in ways that modern humans typically don't. So, what do? Taeyang asked. Stop hunting? The galaxy needs you, a Qualthan Council member said. Rift Hunter attacks are increasing. Yesterday, 3 stations were hit simultaneously. Without human intervention, hundreds would have died. You saved them. At what cost? Ji Woo asked. If we lose ourselves in the process, if we become something we're not supposed to be, is it worth it? You're becoming what you've always been, Velthus said. Predators. The galaxy forgot what that means. We evolved past our hunting instincts so long ago that we can barely remember them. But humanity never did. You're only a few thousand years removed from hunting megafauna with stone tools. Those instincts are still fresh. Over the next weeks, Jiwoo watched her fellow humans change. They moved differently, carried themselves with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. They were the best at what they did, and they knew it. The aliens watched them with a mixture of gratitude and fear. Training sessions became more intense. Humans practiced not just with their weapons, but with each other, learning to coordinate hunts the way their ancestors had. They developed hand signals, movement patterns, roles within the hunting pack. Alpha, tracker, flanker, finisher. Words that came naturally, even though no one had taught them. Jiwoo found herself leading teams more often. Others deferred to her, recognizing something in her that she didn't fully understand herself. Leadership through dominance, through demonstrated skill, through the unspoken language of predators, establishing hierarchy. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt right. Then came the incident that changed everything. A team was hunting a rift hunter on a civilian transport ship. The team leader, a man named Taejun, entered the trance so deeply that he didn't stop when the hunter was killed. He kept hunting, his brain convinced there was still prey nearby. When a civilian engineer stumbled into his path, Taejun attacked. He didn't kill the engineer. His teammate tackled him first, but the man was badly injured. And Taejun didn't even remember it. He'd been so deep in the trance that everything after killing the hunter was blank. The incident forced a reckoning. Human teams were temporarily grounded while psychologists, neurologists, and xenobiologists worked to understand what was happening. Sujin spent 72 hours straight analyzing data, barely eating or sleeping. When she called Jiwoo and Taeyang to her lab, she looked exhausted but excited. I figured it out, she said. The trance isn't just about hunting efficiency. It's about survival. When early humans hunted dangerous prey animals that could kill them, they needed to be completely focused. No distractions, no hesitation, no conscious thoughts slowing them down. The trance is your brain's way of optimizing you for that situation. But we're not hunting mammoths, Jiwoo said. We're hunting things that can phase through walls and sense electromagnetic fields. Things our ancestors never encountered. Exactly. Your brain is adapting a very old response to a completely new threat. And it's overcompensating. The deeper you go into the trance, the more your brain suppresses everything that isn't directly related to hunting, including recognizing friends as non-threats. So how do we fix it? Taeyang asked. We don't fix it. We train it. Sujin pulled up a new document. I've been working with psychologists on Earth. We're developing protocols based on techniques used by Special Forces soldiers. Mental anchors. Reality checks. Ways to maintain awareness even in the trance. It won't be perfect, but it should prevent incidents like Taechun's. The training began immediately. Jiwoo spent hours learning to maintain. The intelligence came through 6 months after the first attack on Outpost Meridian. Council scientists have finally located the source of the rift. Hunter incursions, a massive dimensional tier near the galactic core, hidden in a region of space so dangerous that no one had explored it in centuries. The tier was growing, and projections showed that within weeks, It would be large enough to allow thousands of hunters through at once. The solution was simple in theory. Close the tier. But actually doing it required someone to travel to the tier's location, survive long enough to plant dimensional stabilizers, and activate them before the hunters killed everyone. It's a suicide mission, Valtha said bluntly during the briefing. The command center was packed with representatives from every major species. The area around the tier is infested with rift hunters. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. We'd lose entire fleets before we got close. So we don't send fleets, Jiwoo said. She stood at the front of the room, feeling the weight of every eye on her. We send hunters. Elaborate, Taeyang said. Fleets are loud. Energy signatures, propulsion systems, communication arrays. Everything the hunters can sense from light years away. But a small ship, running dark, with minimal power and a crew carrying kinetic weapons. We could get close. Maybe close enough. A Thaxram admiral clicked his mandibles skeptically. And then what? Fight your way through thousands of hunters? No, Jiwoo said. We hunt them. The way we've been hunting them for 6 months. Patient, methodical. We clear a path, plant the stabilizers, and activate them. Then we run like hell. The odds of success are minimal, Sujin said. She'd been running simulations for days. But they're better than any conventional military assault. The hunters would tear apart a fleet before it got halfway there. The debate lasted for hours, but in the end, there was no real choice. The tier had to be closed, and humanity was the only species with a chance of doing it. G-Wu assembled her team carefully. 20 humans, the best hunters they had. Haiyan-Wu insisted on coming, and she didn't have the heart to refuse him. They'd been through too much together. A dozen alien volunteers joined them, soldiers who had learned to hunt alongside humans, who understood the tactics, who could control their instinct to rely on technology. They left Harmony's Edge on a converted cargo ship that had been stripped down to almost nothing. No weapon systems, no shields, no active scanners. Just life support, basic propulsion, and a hold full of kinetic weapons and ammunition. They ran dark, drifting through space on minimal power, looking like space debris to any sensor sweep. The journey took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence, of meditation, of preparing mentally for what was coming. Jiwoo spent hours with her bow, maintaining it, checking every component. The weapon had become an extension of herself. She couldn't imagine facing what was ahead without it. Sujin was with them, still taking notes, still fascinated by what humans had become. You've changed, she said to Jiwoo one night. All of you. You move differently, think differently. It's like you're becoming a new species. We're becoming what we always were, Jiwoo replied. We just forgot for a while. As they approached the dimensional tier, they could see it on their passive sensors. A wound in reality, bleeding darkness into normal space. And around it, the Rift Hunters. More than Jiwoo had imagined possible. They moved through the void in packs, their bodies flickering in and out of phase, creating an almost beautiful pattern of light and shadow. That's a lot of monsters, Haiyan-Wu said quietly. They're not monsters, Jiwoo said. They're predators. Like us. That's important to remember. The ship docked on a derelict station floating near the tier. The station had been abandoned decades ago, its crew killed in the first wave of hunter attacks. Now it would serve as their base of operations. They moved through the station in complete silence, using hand signals and gestures. Every member of the team was in the trance already, their minds focused and clear. Jiwoo could feel it spreading through the group like a living thing, connecting them in ways that had nothing to do with technology. The first hunters found them in the station's main corridor. 5 of them, phasing in from nowhere. But the humans were ready. Arrows flew, bullets cracked, and within seconds, all 5 hunters were dead or dying. They're testing us, Jiwoo said. "Seeing what we are." Over the next 12 hours, they fought their way deeper into the station and then out into the exposed maintenance platforms that hung in space near the tier. The hunters attacked in waves, sometimes alone, sometimes in groups. Each fight was a dance of predator against predator, and Jiwoo began to notice something. The hunters were learning. They adapted to human tactics, changed their approach, tried new strategies. They were intelligent, not mindless beasts. They studied their opponents just as humans studied them. It made her respect them in a strange way. The team reached the placement site for the first dimensional stabilizer. While the technical crew worked to install it, Jiwoo and her hunters formed a defensive perimeter. The hunters circled them, dozens of flickering forms in the darkness. But they didn't attack. They were waiting, Jiwoo realized. Watching. "They know what we're doing," Hyunwoo said, voicing her thoughts. "They know we're trying to close the tier. Then why aren't they attacking?" A single rift hunter materialized in front of them. It was larger than the others, its body more solid, more present. An alpha, Jiwoo thought. A leader. The creature looked at her with its multiple eyes. And Jiwoo felt something she'd never experienced before in her encounters with the hunters. Recognition, not as prey, not as food, but as something equal. Another predator in the void. She lowered her bow slightly, not putting it away, but showing she wouldn't shoot first. The gesture was instinctive, the body language of predators establishing dominance without fighting to the death. The alpha hunter tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost curious. Then it made a sound, not the scream they made when injured, but something different. A rumble, deep and resonant. "It's trying to communicate," Sujin whispered from behind her. G-Woo took a step forward. Every tactical instinct screamed at her to stop, but something deeper, something in the trance, told her this was right. She held the alpha's gaze. In that moment, she understood. The rift hunters weren't invading. They were fleeing. Something in their dimension, something worse than them, was pushing them out. They were refugees, not conquerors. And humanity, in trying to close the tier, was trapping them. But Jiwoo also understood that it didn't matter. Humanity had its own people to protect. The galaxy had its own civilizations to preserve. Sympathy didn't change necessity. She raised her bow, not in threat, but in acknowledgement. One predator to another, saying, "I see you. I understand you. But we're still going to fight." The alpha hunter's body language shifted. If Jiwoo had to put a human word to it, she would have said the creature looked resigned. It made the rumbling sound again, then phased out. The attack that followed was unlike anything they'd experienced. The hunters came in coordinated waves, using tactics they'd learned from watching humans hunt. They flanked, they feinted, they used the environment. It was the hardest fight of Jiwoo's life, but humanity had something the hunters didn't. They had learned to control the trance, to use it without being consumed by it. They fought with the precision of predators, but the strategy of thinking beings. One by one, the stabilizers were planted. One by one, they activated. The dimensional tier began to shrink, reality reasserting itself. The hunters fought harder as they realized what was happening. Dozens died. Several humans fell, including a young woman named Hana, who had reminded Jiwoo of herself at that age. Each loss hurt, but they couldn't stop. They had come too far. When the final stabilizer activated, the tier collapsed with a sound like thunder that shouldn't exist in vacuum but somehow did. The remaining hunters phased out, trapped on their side of reality once more. Silence fell over the battlefield. Jiwoo stood among the bodies of both humans and hunters. Her bow still raised, her breathing steady despite her exhaustion. Around her, the survivors were coming out of the trance slowly, remembering who they were beyond the hunt. "It's done," Valtha said through their communication system. The fleet had been waiting at a safe distance. and now ships were moving in. The tier is sealed. You did it. But Ji-woo felt no triumph. Only a deep, bone-weary tiredness and a strange sadness for the hunters they'd killed. Predators, just trying to survive. We should go, Ayamu said, touching her shoulder gently. Back on Harmony's edge, the celebrations felt hollow to Ji-woo. The galaxy was saved. Humanity had proven its worth. They were heroes, champions, a species that could do what no one else could. But she'd seen what that cost. She'd felt what it meant to let the predator wake up fully. And she knew it would never truly sleep again. A month later, the Galactic Council made it official. Humanity would serve as rangers, border guards, hunters of threats that normal species couldn't face. It was the role they'd earned, the place they'd carved out among the stars. Ji-woo accepted the honor, accepted the responsibility. But she also made a request.